We are excited because we are seeing developers with exciting uplifts in conversions reported, which translate to better campaign performance and bidding efficiency. So I've seen case studies where supplementing tag data sees a 13% median increase in attributed conversions.
Simplifying the story for new marketers and developers who are coming into the door now and saying, hey, what does Google have to offer? How do I get started on customer match programmatically? How do I get started on offline conversions? We wanted to just simplify the story and say, good at a data manager API.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Google's Ads DevCast. I'm your host, Cory Liseno from Google's Ads Developer Relations team. Today we're covering data strength and explaining how Data Manager API helps you send the best data into Google to get the best performance out of your Google campaigns. If you're a developer managing conversions, this episode is for you. To help out today, I've also invited Stephen Chang and Xuezhu Li. They're both product managers on the Data Manager product here at Google. Before we start, reminder, are there surveys available at goo.gol/adc-survey-E7. We would love your feedback. And you can also reach out to us on our new LinkedIn page or on our Discord. Okay, now let's jump in and unpack what data strength is, how Data Manager API can help, what's changing, and why this is actually a massive leap forward for both data security and developer efficiency. Without further ado, let me bring in our guests. Stephen, Xuezhu, hi, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Cory. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, hi, Cory. Thanks for having us on the show.
So why don't we do a quick introduction? I guess, Stephen, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I'm a product manager on the Data Manager product at Google. My focus is on data strength, which is the concept of sending the best quality data to Google so that Google can then drive the best campaign results.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm a PM on Data Manager API, and we've been working very hard on building Data Manager. I'm very excited to talk about why Data Manager is the future of data ingestion at Google. So there's a lot of value we're bringing to the developers, and I'm looking forward to walk through those details today.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to have you both on. Between the two of you, we have a lot of data manager knowledge here, so this is going to be great. Why don't we start with what data strength is? I know it's been mentioned at GML a couple times, and I know there are some blog posts out there as well. But for this audience, could you give us a quick overview?
Yeah, happy to. Data strength is essentially the concept of like high quality data in can drive high quality results out, right? This data is used by Google AI to fuel these outcomes, these business outcomes for marketers who use Google Ads. And historically, this concept has been pretty straightforward and simple. For a long time, a Google tag was all you needed, right? Someone would click on an ad, land on the marketer's website. The Google tag would capture and send a ping back. And that information was used by Google AI and learning to then train the campaigns on what to optimize on. But a lot has changed since then. I think many people are aware of and see the headlines around the privacy ecosystem changing quite a bit. Users' expectations around that, adding things such as ad blockers or just their general bar for privacy. What they expect for privacy is a lot higher. Just consumer video consumption behaviors, right? We consume media on social, in our living room, across devices. And so a single tag is just not going to cut it. And so data strength is the concept that to really get a clear idea of what you potential customers are doing after they click or see your ad, you really need to send all the signals that are there, right? And so historically, a tag is no longer enough. Now, one of a major feature within the data strength suite is Google Tag Gateway. It's essentially a supercharged tag that effectively recovers many of the conversion tag fires that you might not normally see with a normal tag. Secondly, another cool thing that we have in the arsenal of data strength is to add multiple sources to your conversion. So your website conversion action, you're now also able to use Data Manager, both the UI and API, to send additional data around on those purchase conversions. Now, effectively giving that conversion two sources, the Google Tag Gateway and the data that's imported via Data Manager. In a nutshell, we'd love all marketers to be able to take advantage of this, to maximize their data strength by sending data via Google Tag Gateway and Data Manager UI or API. But yeah, today we'll talk more about this. Xuezhu will certainly have more to say on this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Steve. So Data Manager API has also been mentioned a few times on previous episodes of this podcast, I believe. But I just want to help introduce it for any new listeners. So Data Manager API is Google's one API for sending conversions and audience data in a single call. So whether you use Google Ads, products in the Google Marketing Platform Suite, or Google Analytics, this is the API you should use. Some of you may already be using these products' respective APIs to send data for conversions or audiences. So we want you to know that Data Manager is Google's new API for sending that type of data going forward.
Yeah, and you're right. We've talked about this before. We talked about like the audience portion of it, and I'm super excited to dive even deeper with you both on the conversions portion of it. And I believe this new API utilizes a single schema. It's easier to upload all of your first-party data in this way.
Yes, exactly. So if you're a new customer thinking about sending data for customer match or importing offline conversions via API, then you should definitely use Data Manager API. And if you're an existing customer already sending data for these features to these respective product APIs and wondering if switching to the DM API is worth the efforts, the answer is definitely yes. So the DM API uses a single unified schema. And instead of like juggling separate pipelines, you build to one standard and bring your data once and activate it everywhere across Google Ads, GA4, and GMP. Plus, and all future cross-platform features are being built exclusively for Data Manager.
Yeah, and speaking of, can you explain for us how, or I guess really if, developers already using offline conversions API with Google Ads, are they going to be affected in this whole Data Manager migration that's currently happening?
No, just clarifying up front, developers and the marketers that they're working with that are sending data via Google Ads API for offline conversions and even customer match, not affected. And the respective product APIs, both Google Ads API as well as GA4 API, the GMP suite of products APIs, those are not being affected. If you're sending data there, not continue doing that. What you might be referring to, the recent announcements are some blog posts announcing that we will be blocking new adoption of those APIs for data import, for customer match list uploads, and for offline conversion imports. We're effectively simplifying the story for new marketers and developers who are coming into the door now and saying, hey, what does Google have to offer? How do I get started on customer match programmatically? How do I get started on offline conversion, sending conversion data programmatically? We wanted to just simplify the story and say, good at the Data Manager API, right? And so clarifying, those APIs will continue to exist for non-data import purposes. People using them for data import can keep on using them, but we really encourage them to try out the new the Data Manager API, because that's overall our future direction that we're headed in.
Yeah. And really, this is just to help steer people adopting offline conversions and enhanced conversions for the first time to use our best solutions going forward here, Data Manager API. We heard loud and clear from many marketers and also the developer teams that Google had too many APIs for first-party data ingestion, like store sales, like conversion uploads, ECL, OCI. There were just too many solutions that made it very difficult to know what API they should be using. It's like a mega menu of too many options. So that's why we launched Data Manager API. There's the only API on the menu, and irrespectively of your product or use case, you just to use this one API for first-party data ingestion. So remember, just Data Manager.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I mean, this concept of making it easier for our users, right? And kind of boiling it down. I feel like that's really going to resonate with a lot of developer teams. It resonates with me specifically. So I feel like it's really going to resonate with them. How about looking forward at the near-term future, right? How should developers and marketing teams be thinking about Data Manager API going forward? Should they be thinking about features that they should be adopting? Should they be thinking about migrating their existing code base? Like, what should they be thinking about?
Yes, sure. So I think one key thing to think about is Data Manager has many new cool features that could directly help you build your data strength. So for instance, you can supplement your tag measured website conversions by sending additional conversion data to it via DM API. So in the past, website conversions could only be measured via Google tag. So you could not send additional data via API programmatically. But now in Data Manager API, you can add a data source to a tag measure conversion by directly sending in the data from your order management systems. And by combining those two streams of data, so from Google tag and also from directly sending via Data Manager API, Google can deduplicate and capture additional conversions that the tag might have missed. So this functionality is only available via Data Manager, both UI and API. We are excited because we are seeing developers with exciting uplifts in conversions reported, which translate to better campaign performance and bidding efficiency. So I've seen case studies where supplementing tag data sees a 13% median increase in attributed conversions. Yeah.
That's pretty huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to also follow up, like yet another thing, right? So what Stacey explained was one form of something that you can do to build data strength in the API. Just another really concrete thing to talk about is just the inclusion of additional parameters, identifiers or parameters that you can attach to a conversion event or a customer match list to effectively improve your match rate. And so really specifically, we recently launched IP address for conversions in the DM API, as well as for the customer match list in the DM API. And these fields were either not available or had really limited availability in the Ads API, right? And so just really concretely, the more identifiers or parameters related to ad interaction that you attach to every row that you import, Google's able to improve its ability to match back to an ad interaction, right? So an example, customers who import offline conversions, historically, many marketers have been just importing Google click IDs, G-clicks. But in the case of, let's say, if they're buying on demand gen on YouTube media, where there are clicks, but there are way more views, right? There are users who interact with their ad on the short or the video, but they don't actually click. Those engaged views can only be measured via our Google account sign-in data, right? And the only way we can match back is with IDs that are not clicks, right? Because there was no click involved. So this is just another really concrete benefit of the DM API, being able to attach more IDs and improving match rates and ultimately more convergence and better performance.
Yeah, and I think, Stephen, you mentioned earlier the concept of, getting all this extra data and then improving the output, right? The better the data in, the better that data out, right? The better the quality out. And it really feels like these new features that we're adding to Data Manager API are really going to be an integral part going forward to improving campaign optimization. And I believe I also read that Data Manager API also manages sending your data across multiple platforms for you. So not just, hey, I have this new schema I have to send to Data Manager, but now I also have to send it to Google Ads. Now I also have to send it elsewhere, right? Like it manages funneling it everywhere, right?
Yes, totally. You're totally correct. So if you ever had to build and maintain separate API pipelines for every single product, I assume you already know what a nightmare it can be. Well, those days are finally over. There's a new routing architecture that lets you use just one schema and endpoint for all your audiences, and just one schema and endpoint for all your conversions as well. You can think of it as send once and fan out everywhere. So you just push your first-party data in, and the system seamlessly route it out to any of your system that you choose, such as CM360, DM360, SA360, and GA4. So it completely streamlines the whole ingestion workflow. Plus, you also get the flexibility to segment and distribute your data instantly, whether that's across different lists or conversion actions in the same account or entirely different product suites at the exact same time. So if you're a developer dealing with asynchronous ingestion pipelines, keeping track of your progress is just got a lot easier. So the Status API is a request tracking service that lets you monitor the health of your pipelines using simple request ID. So instead of digging through legacy multi-step offline queries, you get one unified status check that does the heavy lifting for you. Plus, it now sends aggregated row-level arrows, and there is more coming in the second half of the year. So we are rolling out advanced diagnostic fields like ingestion warnings and exact row-level indexes. So to make track down pipeline issues completely painless for you.
For someone that works closely with developers who use this product and the Google Ads API version of this product, that sounds like something that folks have been yelling for a very long time. And that sounds great that we're able to start delivering that. That is really awesome. I'd like to kind of switch gears a little bit and actually talk about the privacy-centric features too that Data Manager has built in. Would you mind giving a little bit of detail on that?
Yeah, sure. So I want to highlight that DM API has the built-in privacy features right out of the box. So and which is not available in other products API. So DM API is built to keep sensitive user data secure. So it supports encryption for you across the board. For the audience use cases, it is fully backed by confidential match. So just a quick note on confidential match. It relies on the technology of confidential compute, utilizing hardware-isolated, trusted execution environments, which is often called TEEs, those to keep your data completely locked down even during processing. So in addition to the audience use cases, for your critical conversion pipelines, such as Floodlight, CM360, DV360, SA360, and store sales, so this privacy-first TE architecture is already in place for you to use. And we're also planning to roll out confidential compute across all conversion use cases soon, so allowing you to handle all the sensitive data with complete confidence.
Okay, so we're getting super deep here on really awesome topics, but I just want to give folks an elevator pitch of why they should be thinking about using Data Manager API. If we really just kind of took a step back and didn't think about specifics of features, but just high level, why should a developer or marketing team want to adopt Data Manager today?
Yeah, totally. That's a great question. So I would break it down into 4 main categories: performance, built-in privacy, new features, and developer experience. So first, performance. As we've discussed, building data strength is about sending all the signals from all your data source to unlock the best performance. DM API gives you the access to new parameters like IP address and session attributes that can drive an increase in conversion value, and thus better campaign performances. So including these signals to measure offline conversions or supplement your online website conversions are all things you can exclusively do in DM API. And second is privacy. So we've mentioned confidential matching and the optional encryption of user data. So these features, we provide technical guarantees for data security. It is a highly secure and privacy-first ingestion pipeline that you can trust. And the third is the new features. So Data Manager is where Google is investing all the future data import capabilities. For example, we'll be supporting streaming capabilities in addition to batch processing and establishing a Google-hosted MCP server so that developers can utilize it with their internal agentic AIs. And lastly, the developer experience is significantly better, regardless of which conversion use case you are implementing, whether it's web conversions, lead uploads, or store sales. The methods, schema, and workflows are completely uniform. So with this unified architecture, you can send a single API request that contains conversions for different use cases or even conversions for different products. For example, we can send data to both Google Ads and Google Analytics in a single call.
Yeah, I mean, first off, that's a compelling pitch as a whole. But that fourth point, that developer experience point, aside from the unified schema, which is already a development win for developers, that's way easier. But the concept of making one call and letting Google handle it for you. And when we think about de-risking production systems, right, reducing the integration touch points that you have down to a single surface, down to Data Manager API only, that's really going to make it a much better experience for our developers, a much better experience for our end users through their platforms. So let's talk about some best practices for data strength. I want to go back to that for a second. So in concrete terms, what should developer and marketing teams, what should they do to maximize their results?
I'll take that one. I think, we mentioned earlier, just in data strength is effectively like sending all the signals, right? Sending from all the sources, all the signals. And specifically for DM API perspective, all the signals are these, as I mentioned earlier, these identifiers or parameters that they can attach to a given conversion event, right? So when they're importing it, again, historically, many marketers have only been sending one identifier, a Google Click ID. Now they should be including the user identifiers, like the email, phone number, name and address. These obviously they need to follow their company's terms of service and privacy policies, right? But with respect to the fields, they should be providing those fields for every event where they can. Another example of a parameter they mentioned earlier is the IP address as well. So imagine if there's a spreadsheet of all these rows, it's not just one column of identifiers, it's all of them wherever they are, right? And that increases the chance of Google AI being able to match to a conversion and drive better bidding performance. Maybe as another example, a customer type, I believe, is the name of the field, but this is effectively additional metadata that describes the customer that made that particular purchase or transaction. This can also fuel Google AI for certain campaign types, such as new customer acquisition. This is not a campaign type, but a goal type, right? And so marketers who are bidding to new customers, they get this ground truth from you that basically says, yep, this conversion happened and this came from a new customer. This conversion happened, this came from a returning customer, and that helps our models better understand and reach new customers versus existing. So these are really concrete examples of a best practice at all the fields. Another best practice I'm thinking about and I often see people stumble on is not sending all the rows. What that means is, again, imagine a spreadsheet of rows of different conversion events. Historically, because offline conversions really just took one identifier, a Google Click ID, many marketers have set up pipelines or are used to just sending events only when there's a Google Click ID. But as I mentioned earlier, your consumers are across all different types of screens and engaging with your ad in different ways, not necessarily a click, right? And so to really enable our AI, Google AI, to find the full spectrum of potential conversions to attribute to and understanding all the potential customers that you reached, you need to be able to send all the rows. So even if there literally is not a Google Click ID, you likely have other identifiers or parameters that you may be able to attach, right? So this goes hand in hand with the first best practice. Like imagine a full spreadsheet of all the columns, all the rows. Those should be, I think, the top two best practices.
That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, label all the data, send all the data, let Google do the attribution on the back end where you wouldn't otherwise even see the attribution potentially, and then get better optimization. I mean, it feels like it makes a lot of sense. You know what? Before we go, I do want to quickly, we have a community segment that we usually do at the end of every episode, and we got a great question from the community. I'd love to bounce it off you both. Dan on Discord, we have our Discord. He wants to know what the learning curve is for Data Manager API. And we talked about the new schema, that unified schema. Is it completely different? Is it something that they're going to be spending weeks trying to get up and running and learn about?
I'll caveat, and maybe my answer is biased, but I think the learning curve is pretty minimal. We've heard from developers who have already started onboarding to DM API. And we think that our standardization of the payload and format is just many steps beyond like what they might be used to on our existing previous APIs for data ingestion. Whether it's store sales, offline conversions, setting conversions for online, we've really tried to standardize it so kind of looks all the same and it's just a lot easier. We do have a lot of guides, code samples, I believe, that your team and our other teams have helped partner to write to help people through transitioning from Google Ads API to bring in conversions to Data Manager. And there's obviously Gemini and other LLMs out there that can assist. And then I believe our team has also played a leading role in the eCAPI specification out there. There's an IAB spec for sending events through a conversions API, eCAPI, and we've helped define that. So I feel pretty good that we can say that the learning curve is low, and anything that you do encounter is worth it. You'll find the benefits from that.
Yeah, and actually, you mentioned the stuff that we're putting out there on our developer site and across all the mediums that we have. We have tools, we have guides, we have videos. We have a whole bunch of stuff out there that I really hope our community is going to leverage because it will help them even reduce that learning curve even more. So really hope so. That's really all the time we have for today. I do want to really quickly just thank you both so much for coming on the show. I know you're incredibly busy. It was great to have you here. So much knowledge about Data Manager API. So thank you both so much for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Ads DevCast. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. We want your feedback. So please take a minute to let us know your thoughts at goo.goal/ads ADC-survey-E7. Join our developer Discord, follow our new page on LinkedIn. You can stay up to date at both those places, follow our blog, go to our dev site. Thank you all so much for tuning into Ads DevCast, and I'll see you next time.